Someone at OpenAI has leaked the pricing for GPT-4.5, suggesting that it's right around the corner. But is the leak real? Let's dig in. My goodness, the AI rumor mill is in full swing right now, and the things coming out this morning are some of the juiciest that we've seen yet. So, just to give you a sense of what dropped, this screenshot that you're seeing now or hearing about if you're listening to the podcast is what looks like a pricing page from OpenAI. You can see a little URL up in the top, openai.com/pricing/edit draft, suggesting that it's a draft page. And right at the top, it says GPT 4.5. It's described as our most advanced model brings multimodal capabilities across language, audio, vision, video, and 3D, alongside complex reasoning and cross-modal understanding. Then it has pricing for 3 different models: GPT 4.5, GPT 4.5 64K, and GPT 4.5 audio and speech. It also has a separate link that's not shared for a vision and 3D pricing calculator. So this started flying around this morning, and as we'll get into, nobody is quite sure if it's real or not. But let's back up and give a little bit of the context for why this might be happening right now, and that is, of course, the reemergence of Google onto the scene. Last week, Google announced Gemini. Initially, the excitement was palpable. For the first time, we had something that could actually compete with GPT-4, at least it seemed. Indeed, Gemini's Ultra model had actually outperformed GPT-4 on the MMLU. The problem was that Ultra wasn't actually available, and it wasn't going to be available until sometime next year, which meant that what was coming, which wasn't even available that day, much to many developers' chagrin, was Gemini Pro, which was something closer to GPT 3.5 level. For many, after reading the 11-page or whatever it was announcement blog, it felt like a bit of a rug pull, or at least a classic announcement of an announcement kind of thing. This was contrast, of course, with Mistral at basically the same time, dropping a torrent link to their newest model without any explanation for around 3 days after it got out there. Still, when all was said and done, people were excited and are excited that Google is back in the game in a more meaningful way. And yesterday, CEO Sundar Pichai tweeted, "Today, developers can start building with our first version of Gemini Pro through Google AI Studio at ai.google.dev. Developers have a free quota and access to a full range of features, including function calling, embeddings, semantic retrieval, custom knowledge grounding, chat functionality, and more. It supports 38 languages across 180 countries. Gemini Ultra is coming early next year. We're excited to see what you build." The blog post was called "It's Time for Developers and Enterprises to Build with Gemini Pro." And so the question was, of course, what would the early reviews be? Sully Omar writes, "Some initial impressions of Gemini Pro. Much better at understanding complicated queries than 3.5. Has really good function calling with minimal prompts. Is a little chatty, but solid model so far." Now, asking a question that I think many were feeling, Chase MC67 responded, "It's 2023, why are we comparing anything to GPT 3.5 anymore? That's the model you use when you don't need the output to be smarter than a 5-year-old. Do people actually find that useful, or is it just to say they have it?" Sully responded to that, 3.5 is still useful because it's cheap. You don't need to use state-of-the-art models for every query, it's too expensive. Offshoring dumb models for simple queries is a valid strategy." Others weren't as impressed. Entrepreneur Bindu Reddy wrote, "Gemini Pro is more expensive than GPT 3.5. I'm not sure what the point is given that they are a GPT 3.5 class model. Not to mention that we and a bunch of other startups have Mixtral MOE, another 3.5 class model available at 2x cheaper than GPT 3.5. Langchain had a more positive assessment. They wrote, "Gemini is natively multimodal, but how does it stack up against GPT-4v? We put Gemini Pro Vision head-to-head with the reigning champ to see how well it could answer questions based on a multimodal slide deck. The results? Gemini seems to be a formidable model, matching GPT-4v's performance when using the same OpenClip embedding model and only missing one question when retrieving based on embedded image summaries." So obviously a more positive assessment here. For those without a real dog in the fight, a fairly decent summary of what has changed comes from The Information with their latest piece, "How Google Got Back on Its Feet in the AI Race." Early this year, the rise of OpenAI seemed to spell doom for Google, but the tech giant has quieted the squabbling between its AI researchers and is finally playing offense with its latest AI technology, Gemini. Now, the hard part starts. Now, the gist of the article is effectively that Google has stemmed the bleeding after a period in which people were very surprised to see how far ahead of them OpenAI really got. It's not exactly arguing that they've fully made up that ground, but just that they are actually back in the race now. It also makes it clear that this is a very big deal. The Information writes, "Gemini is one of the highest stake efforts in the company's 25-year history. As Google enters middle age, its core advertising business continues to churn out huge profits, which have subsidized an array of bets by its parent company Alphabet on new businesses including self-driving cars, health insurance, and biotechnology. But none of those decade-old bets has paid off. As a result, investors have increasingly breathed down the neck of Google leaders to cut costs across the 182,000-person company, leading to large-scale layoffs this year that have hurt employee morale. Employees are girding for more layoffs in the new year, though it isn't clear if they will be broad-based or target specific groups. AI is another bet that will require hefty funding from the company to pay for everything from personnel to hardware. Google wants to dispel the perception that it has done little more than milk innovations from decades ago. It's a really extensive piece, well worth a read if you've got an information subscription. Now back to this GPT 4.5 leak. There was actually another leak shared once again from one of the more active leakers / commentators / predictors around OpenAI, which is of course the Flowers from the Future account. This morning, that account had tweeted what looked like a snippet of an email from inside Google about why they had gone forward with the Gemini API. The snippet reads, "Rumors circulating within the department, Redacted has taken decisive action to address the potential impact of GPT 4.5. In response to these speculations, a strategic decision has been made to expedite the activation of the Gemini API effective as of today. This proactive measure aims to mitigate any unforeseen consequences and reinforce our position in light of emerging advancements." Now, we had even before this a lot of rumors that 4.5 was on the way. The Jimmy Apples account, which has previously been right on a number of different timelines and feature announcements, wrote, "Keep an eye out on a potential end of December GPT 4.5 drop." And again, Flowers from the Future last week wrote, "There's one big thing and one small OpenAI thingy waiting for us. The small thing is currently delayed due to company dramas, and the big thing seems to be progressing according to plan. December remains exciting, especially next week," which, if you're listening around the time this comes out on the 14th or 15th, meaning this week. Now, that small thing we got yesterday, it was the re-enablement of ChatGPT Plus subscriptions, which have been turned off recently because of lack of access to compute. Sam Altman tweeted, "Thanks for your patience while we found more GPUs." Flowers from the Future confirmed that was the small thing they were talking about. So what did that account think of this GPT-4 leak? They shared it and said, "I don't know what to make of it. It could be fake, but I'm not sure. No one I know has heard of this draft," which of course means nothing, but be careful lest you fall victim to a quick endorphin rush. And yes, I know some of you are using my account in the same way. They also separately tweeted, "The content of the screenshot seems to be largely correct, but none of my sources can currently verify whether it is a genuine draft." Now, what we did get yesterday, in addition to the ChatGPT Plus subscriptions reopening, were a couple real announcements as well. The first was that the OpenAI Startup Fund is launching a new cohort that they're calling Converge 2. The blog post about it calls it the next evolution of our program for transformative AI companies. They write, "The AI Startup Fund was founded on two core beliefs. First, new and powerful AI systems will give rise to a new wave of transformative startups. And next, these new companies will play a central role in making AI a force multiplier for human ingenuity and creativity. We launched Converge in December 2022 to accelerate startups working on the forefront of this evolution, doing our part to help push the boundaries of applied AI in important domains. Today, we're opening applications for Converge 2. The second cohort of our 6-week program for exceptional engineers, designers, researchers, and product builders using AI to reimagine the world." So this is sort of like a mini accelerator program, but for AI startups. So they're promising tech talks, office hours, social events, and anyone who's chosen receives a $1 million investment from the OpenAI Startup Fund. Applications are open from now until January 26th. Now, in addition to that, an even bigger piece of real news was that OpenAI had signed a deal with publishing giant Axel Springer. The exact terms of the deal weren't reported, but sources suggest that it was in the tens of millions of dollars over the 3-year deal. Now, Axel Springer owns publications like Politico and Business Insider, and through the deal, OpenAI will legitimately get used to train their models on all of that content, but will also actually reference that content more explicitly in ChatGPT answers. So for example, if a response is using one of those pieces, it will attribute it and give links to the full articles. Now, this is obviously similar to the experience of something like Perplexity, but is not currently how ChatGPT works. Said the Axel Springer CEO, "We want to explore the opportunities of AI-empowered journalism to bring quality societal relevance and the business model of journalism to the next level." Now, obviously, this stands in contrast to all of the copyright battles being fought around whether companies like OpenAI are within their rights and whether it is truly fair use to train AI models on scraped content. But certainly voluntary partnerships like this could have an impact on the norms surrounding how AI models and labs work with publishers. All in all, I have to say it feels to me like we are right on the edge of some big announcement from OpenAI, specifically around GPT 4.5. There's just too much swirling and too much smoke for there not to be some fire there. And I think that to the extent that it's not being released, it's for reasons that have nothing to do with whether it's available and that have more to do with OpenAI's consideration of the public narrative and conversation around it. But of course, we will be watching this very closely, and the second they drop something, I will be here to tell you all about it. For now, I appreciate you listening or watching. Until next time, peace.